Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us from. Happy Memorial Day, America, and happy Inauguration Day, Nigeria, for the ascension of a new government. Uh, I want to thank you for being a part of today's episode of Being a Man, the adventure from boyhood to manhood. Experience another exploration as I will be having a young guest on the show. As you know, this episode is all about exploring a man's journey from boyhood to manhood, especially men and boys. Uh, I am Ola Akinwu, aka the humanitarian guru. I will be your regular host on this show. And today I have a very young boy all the way from, he's a young man, all the way from Guyana. And he's going to be sharing with us today his life journey from boyhood to to a stage of manhood, which he is right now. I'm just waiting for Joshua to join this conversation. Oh, thank you, Joshua, for, for, for being on the show. Before I introduce Joshua, let me quickly adjust my screen so that we can all explore this conversation together. You know, the goal of this groundbreaking. Can you hear me, Josh? Yeah, why Josh reconnect with his video? As I said, the goal of this conversation is actually to explore the journey of a man's life from boyhood to manhood all around the globe. And we will tap into Joshua's relationship with his father, how his culture in Trinidad and Guyana has influenced him to be the young man he's becoming. And we all know that when boys don't learn, men won't know. As well, the supreme test of our civilization is whether or not we can cultivate our young men, young boys, to become good human beings, to become good husbands, to become good fathers, to become men who influences their community in a positive. So, with that being said, I want to quickly introduce my guest. Josh Singh is 19. Is the head boy of Bishop's High School in Guyana, and very articulate young man, interesting young man, focused young man, and Joshua, glad to have you with us.
You can hear me? Good day.
Yeah, thank you for joining us from Guyana. How is life with you today?
I'm currently studying for an exam tomorrow, but it's a privilege to be here today.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Can you do more of introducing yourself so that our audience or people who view this or watch this program after this conversation we get to know more about it? Who is Joshua?
No problem.
Singh?
So obviously, my name is Joshua Singh. I am from Guyana, but I resided in Trinidad. Primarily grew up in Trinidad. I attended the El Dorado Secondary School, and then I moved across here for my Cape level exams. Um, I play the guitar. I'm currently the head boy or head prefect of the Bishop's High School. Um, I take great privilege in my leadership role. Many times I would be said to be very strict, but I don't like to be strict. Um, what else can I say about myself? I have a mother and I have a younger sibling, a sister, that I love dearly. I have friends, and yeah, I my career path is to be a doctor. Um, so I'm in the field of medicine right now, currently studying. Um, so that's about me. As I said, I play the guitar for church. I also play the steel pan, um, specifically tenor pan. So yeah, that's me.
Oh, thank you, Joshua. I love the fact that you play the guitar.
Yeah.
Let me take you from there. Let's start this conversation from the point of the guitar. That's your hobby. How did you develop interest in playing this instrument?
It came from church itself. So we lacked musicians in our church back in Trinidad, and so we had our musicians were leaving in a sense, and so I think God sent the opportunity for me to pick up an instrument, not just the guitar, but pick up the instrument. However, I wasn't really keen in towards piano and drums because I saw much more, much more gospel singers are guitar players, and so I was tuned towards the guitar, and so I found interest in it. I reached out to my youth pastor, and so there was a person that was selling the guitar before I came to Guyana. A person was selling their guitar, and I told him that I wanted to buy it. However, before I leave, he gifted it to me. He gifted me a new guitar, and so from there on, I've
Wow,
been playing, and I've been playing for church.
such such a good one there. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Josh, looking at your boyhood, what will you consider as the best thing about being a boy?
The best thing about being a boy, um,
Yeah.
the rough nature of it, the rough nature of having to adapt to society, having to adapt to a particular lifestyle, and the encounter of knowing God has really brought that out in me. It has really brought out the understanding of where I need to be and the adaptation of life. That's basically I can say from a boy's perspective and into a man's perspective. That has helped me to really transition. He has like filled that gap from boyhood to manhood.
What do you mean by the rough part of it? You want to share more light on that?
The rough nature of being a boy. Yeah. Obviously the stereotypical and the stigma of a boy is that they're very rough and they're wild and they're keen towards mischievous trouble. So that was me. I was a person like that. I was actually a very wild person. I was very mischievous in a sense. So many times I'll be described as a mischievous student, a mischievous child. And so many times I got into trouble, but it has really helped me to understand where I need to be. And so I could say from now, I can look back then and say I had a very good experience.
Yeah, we're going to come to that, exploring those experiences as we continue this conversation. But let me just reach out to people in the audience. I want to appreciate you for joining us this evening as well. Please kindly leave behind in the comments wherever you are joining us from today, so that we can also acknowledge your location and as well recognize your being on this call. So, Joshua, would you want to describe your father uh, or father figure guiding you as you're growing up, right? Who are these men? How do you describe them?
Okay. So from a young age, I was left without a father. So I primarily grew up with my mother as a single parent. And obviously that's where my wild side came from, because there was no male sense to actually ground me in that way. So I was a very wild person. So I didn't have a father. However, many people stepped in. My uncle, and as life progressed, I came into contact with a lot of influential people in my life, influential men in a sense. And um, in a young age, I can say from around 10, 11, 12, I came into contact with a doctor. He was a friend of my mother and my grandmother. He was a doctor then, he was a surgeon, um, and he had now graduated. And I think there's where my male role model started, where I saw the understanding of a man and his career path, his leadership, his sense of dependence, independence himself. And so he spoke out to me. He said, I can't give you any career advice in a sense that I want you to pursue this career because I'm a doctor. He told me something very influential. He told me, make your parents proud, make your mother and your grandmother, make the people that are around you proud. And so in that stepping forward motion, I understand the importance of making the people around me proud. And at the same time, he told me, make yourself proud. And as I flowed through the adolescent age, I came into contact with my pastor and some elders in the church. Some not very old people, but people that were experiencing the same challenges, but they were much older than me. And they would reach out to me and ask how I was doing and really say, okay, we're going to cover you because we understand where you are. We're going to be there for you. The understanding of a father. Now, they weren't speaking from the perspective, okay, we're going to take over your life. They were there to send forth different advice in the sense that I need a little company. And sometimes my mother could not give me the advice that they would give me because they're men, right? My mother couldn't give that. And that allowed me to grow. They give me advice in terms of school, in growing, in understanding stuff, in being responsible, one, and the importance of having male role models, I would say, as a Christian in the church, it allows you to know that it's coming from a good source. It's coming from an important source and an influential source. And so I reached out to them and they reached out to me. They saw the importance of me reaching out to them and they made the effort to reach back out to me. And so I came into contact with pastors, and one of the most important persons I would say around my adult transition, he goes by the name Junior Wickham. He was an elder, not an elder, but yeah, he was an elder in the church, but he was a very young elder in a sense. Um, and I really touched towards him. Why? He was, okay, in a sense, he was trying to manage his own life, having a child and a wife, but he still reached out there and understand that I have challenges and there's stuff that I need help with. And I may come into contact with a lot of things and a lot of advice, but he told me the important thing that you have is knowing Christ. And I think that really helped me to shape me towards being a man. And many things came forward, many men came forward and really give me advice. But I would say the most important man in my life would be Christ. Christ has really touched base with me, and I've been able to actually surrender to him, understanding that Christ faced the same challenges that I am facing. You know, he had to transition from a boy to a man. And so obviously
Yeah.
people touched towards him, and I really came forward to that point in my life right now.
Wow. That's quite revealing, Josh.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned about these men that you reach out to, they reach out to you uh, because of the kind of man you want to be. Do you have an ideal kind of man you want to describe? That, oh, this is the type of man I want to be, that actually draw you close to these men? Or what did you cherish about these individuals that you feel
Yeah.
are also preserve as you grow?
Okay. So, what I can see in these men is their ability to lead, their ability to have leadership role, and the ability for them to adapt and give advice and reach out. And so, how I can say it, the understanding that these men are saying, okay, we don't expect you to know everything, just as we don't know everything. And so, how I can describe a man in my sense of perspective is one that understands their position, one that understands their responsibility, one that is obedient and respectful, one that is not afraid to take up the mantle when they have to take it up. And so when they
Wow.
see people in need, they actually reach out. You're not going to stand on the side and say, somebody else will come and take control. I see a man as a person that's going to step in and take control when things need to be taken control of.
Wow.
And these are the different men that came into my life. From the person back then that influenced me to a career and making my parents proud. He speaks from a perspective of understanding the importance of being responsible, obedient, and also being prideful in sharing what you have. And then came forward my pastors that teach me about Christ and teach me about the understanding of a mental stability and a mental understanding of where you need to be as a man, and understanding that you need to take leadership and you need to humble yourself sometimes, in the sense that you won't know everything, and sometimes you need a little help. As a man, you need to reach out and help those that need help.
Oh, that was quite great there, Joshua. Thank you for sharing all of this with us. And, for those in the audience, we want to appreciate you. Should you have any question for Joshua as the conversation continues, please do not hesitate to type in your question at the comment section. And also, please leave in the comment wherever you are joining us from. This is important to us to engage you in this conversation. Just let's move on, Josh. Would you want to share with us about your relationship with your mother as a mother that has me? You say you are from a single mom. What is it like having a single mom? And also, do you have siblings with your mom? Are you the only child? So, what's the relationship like?
Okay. So obviously I said that my mother is a single parent and I have a younger sibling that is a sister. And I would say I'm very grateful to my mother. Um, when my father left and I was left without a father, she tried to shield those particular problems that would face me as a youth, as a young man. She tried to fill that gap, I would say. Now, she's a single parent and obviously she's fighting to manage the challenges that would face her as a young mother and having
Mhm.
children, myself and my sister. And so
Yeah.
she tried her best. I would say I'm very grateful to that she tried her best. And as a young man, as a very young person, I would say I didn't understand the responsibility she was holding on to because the amount of things she was trying to hide. So I became a very mischievous person, as I said, old young to. However, as I became older, I understand where my mother was coming from. However, that didn't mean many times over I wouldn't allow myself to take control and let my mother feel sorry. And many times over, my mother and I got into a lot of arguments because I would say she wasn't seeing it from my perspective. Because as I got older, I tried to manage my ways and manage my principles and how I wanted to live. And I would say, I want to live this way because I wanted that. However, my mother had a different way and my mother had a different perspective of how things should be and how things should go because obviously she's taking care of me. She's responsible for me. Um, However, I can say I'm very grateful for my mother. She has really tried and she's still trying today to allow me to have the stuff that I have. Even though she can't I would say, give me everything that I want. She has really taught me the life lessons that I need in terms of understanding independence and growth as a young man, the understanding of the importance, I would say, of having education, right? Because she come from a place where she didn't have it herself, and it wasn't easy for her to manage. And so she taught me from a young age the importance of having an education. Um, and so when I came and I got my, she pushed me towards the education part, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful for my mother pushing me towards education. And my younger sibling, I would say, my younger sibling, she is, I would say she has me because she grew up with me a lot. And so she saw that mischievousness in me. And so my mother would usually say, everything wrong that my sister does, it's from me. It's basically from me because she grew up around me. So I'm usually the one to be blamed for the wild side of my sister. However, I would I usually like to be there as a male role model for my own sister, allowing her to know that she has my company, and I would say a sense of protection from the outside world that I myself didn't have and my mother was trying to do. So I will try to say, mentor my sister, my sister, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I got that. As we journey into it, uh, how can a teen boy foster positive relationship with their mothers? And what do teen boys wish that their moms stayed away from for them?
How I see that question, okay. Obviously, as a teen boy, we have our, sorry for the rain and falling, right? Um, you're going into a teenage age, you're going from, I would say, adolescent to manhood.
Yeah,
And there's particular stuff that is going to come into your life. And different things people will try to influence you in a sense to say that you need, in terms of like drinking and smoking and having to go parties and having a girlfriend, because this is the typical age you usually go through this stuff and understanding I have to experience it. Now, it isn't a shy of me of not trying to experience it, obviously, because I came into contact with a lot of people that influenced me to that sort of stuff, towards actually experiencing these things and experiencing partying and drinking. Um, Let me tell you something. From my perspective,
okay.
um, I tried it, and I'm still trying it because I'm trying to manage it. How I would say it is know your limit. Know what you can do and understand what you stand for. Your obedience towards, as I say, towards Christ. And obviously, at the same time, the Christ didn't say not to drink. Obviously, Christ didn't say to limit yourself to this particular lifestyle. However, know the importance of your faith. Knowing of a young man, yeah, you're going to want to experience certain stuff. And you're going to want to go out there and see different things, experience it, have a girlfriend and drink and party. Those things wouldn't last for long if you don't know where you are, if you don't know what you stand for. Those things wouldn't last for long and it's going to consume you. But as for me, I would say I've experienced it. I'm still experiencing it. What I'm trying to do is find a stability point, find a point where I'm able to manage it. So knowing Christ has really brought me to the understanding, okay, I'm going to go through all of this, but what is the end goal? What is the end goal of having to experience all of these stuff? And I would say partying is nice. Having a girlfriend is nice. But when different challenges face you, when it's not enough, where are you going to be at? It's going to consume you eventually. So I would say knowing Christ has allowed me to fill that gap in managing it and finding stability. Yeah, that's how I would say.
Josh, I have a question for you from one of the from the audience. if you could read it, say, for those who do not have good men in a church setting, where can young boys turn to find a healthy mentor and role model?
Okay. Now that's gonna be a little outside of me. However, I've came across the understanding from school. The male role models, they are wrongest, but many times over we cannot see it because we are blinded by our own selves, because we try to shape what a male role model should look like, right? We try to
Okay.
shape what a person we want advice looks like rather than what we actually need and what a person is coming in to step forward for. So many times, as you can see, a perspective to a movie. Many times over, we saw the mentors in these movies that is growing their little prodigies. The prodigies at the
Mm-hmm.
first point isn't going to
Mm-hmm.
commit to what their mentor is saying, because to them that is not what they need, right? That is not what they need, or that's not what they want in a sense. However, to the end point of the movie, at the end point of the goal, they saw the importance of having those people there. Now, in finding these people, very hard to find, but the main thing to know is what you're standing for, understanding what you stand for. Now, where can you find these people? In schools. In schools have many, many teachers, male teachers in a sense, that understand. There's many male teachers and there's many male students in the school. In my school, there's many male teachers in there, and they try to group these boys together, group the male students together, and say, understand, we are here for you. Okay, we're here to help you. Come to me and talk to me. If it's a girl problem, if it's a school problem, if it's a home problem, it's going to stay within here, right? So you trust them. You try to trust them. At the first point, you're going to have doubts. You're going to have things that I cannot reach out to them. Older sibling, a older brother, a older uncle. You try to reach to those people that you see comfort in, that you try to a person, a male role model, a male person, an older person, or sometimes it doesn't need to be a very old person, say 30 or something age, but a person that is experiencing life just like you, a person that is can give you the advice that you need. Where can you find these people? In schools for young men. You should be in school. So male teachers, male coaches, my music teachers. Where else can you find these people? In your community, the understanding of community leaders, community people in your community. You may not see them because obviously you're keeping within your environs, and so you're not reaching out there. So you wouldn't understand the male role models and the male figures you have in your community yourself, in that can
Yeah.
advise you and can direct you towards the male mentorship you need. So I can say I may have male mentors in church. I might have male
Yeah.
mentors back in Trinidad. But at the same time, I have a male mentor in my barber shop. Right? I'm able to
Yeah.
talk to my barber. I could be able to talk and communicate with him. Different things
Yeah.
around me, different situations. And sometimes he would see me quiet and he'd say like, what's up? What's wrong? And he might just pull out a topic out of nowhere. And at the same time, I'm just talking freely because I understand the trustworthiness of them, understand that I can express myself and understand the importance of expressing myself.
Wow, that's quite revealing. Thank you for sharing that. It's becoming more interesting as we continue in the conversation. Yeah, before we move to the next segment of this, I want to ask you, what do you wish your mother had done differently when you were transiting from your early adolescence to the the stage of boyhood you are right now?
Hmm. What I would want her to do differently. Um, Obviously, many of us is gonna jump and say a lot of things. However, I'm very thankful for what my mother did. Um, there isn't much things I can say that I would actually want her to change. The slightest things I can say is I would have wanted her to see my side of the story a bit. My mother was very reluctant on coming onto my side. She was very a person, if it's not this way, it's not going to be any other way. And so many times over, I felt that she wasn't seeing it from my perspective. Even though I was seeing it from her perspective, I'm understanding her perspective. I felt a bit that she could have seen it from my perspective. But there isn't many things that I would wanted my mother to change, because those are the same things that she didn't change that allow me to study experience and grow the skills that I needed as a young man. Obviously, I was without a father. And so I needed that rough nature and that rough experience to adapt to life. Life, in a sense, life isn't going to hold back on you. Life isn't going to wait on you. So if you don't adapt to it, there's no way you're going to overcome it.
You're right. You're right there. You don't adapt to it, there's no way you can overcome it. And I really appreciate the way you adapt to life. And you've had so many experiences that you're sharing with us at this young age. Let's take a little dive into education. I mean, your schooling and all of that. There are four components of academic stress, usually identifiable as academic frustration, academic conflicts, academic anxieties, and academic pressures. Yeah, what are your positive coping skills in dealing with academic stress?
Academic stress. So how I would see it, if you don't have something or a resource to turn to in stabilizing yourself, in stabilizing your mental self, then you can stabilize the stuff around you. You can stabilize the stuff that you go through. Um, so how I would see it. Okay, I use the same thing. I face academic challenges. I face problem in family, challenges in family. I face different challenges in relationships. The first thing I turn to as me is knowing Christ. In knowing, understanding that I can surrender myself, expressing myself. So I try to express myself more to let out that particular stuff that is holding me down. I try to express myself more. I don't try to bottle it up. I don't try to keep it within me because I'm a man, because I'm a person that's dealing with different stuff, especially with academics. Academic pressure is a very leading thing towards suicide and depression. And I don't want
Yeah.
to meet there, because as a Christian, I understand the importance of meeting Christ and not committing to these different stuff. And many times over, I wouldn't say I'd ever reached at that point. However, as I became a more Christian person, I understand there's different stuff you could turn to before you reach to that point. In knowing Christ, in understanding that you need to express yourself more, especially in academics. There's people you can express yourself to. Your family, in a sense, especially when you're facing academic problems. When I was facing academic problems, a backstory to back when I was writing my exams back in 2021, and I would tell you that was COVID period, and
Yeah.
obviously I was facing a lot of challenges because I'm trying to adapt to certain stuff. Now I became overwhelmed many times over, and I would usually cry a lot.
Okay.
And this was my youthful self in Christ. And so, your boy ain't always gonna run to Christ. It's sometimes the pressures are just so bad.
Yeah.
But however, I understand the importance of expressing myself. I express myself, especially to my mother. I express myself out loud. Sometimes you just need to go in your room and scream out the problem that you're facing. So that was one, expressing myself, letting out that particular energy out of you. Another way that I cope with academic stress, academic pressures, academic anxiety, if you don't deal with the problem is still going to be there. So would you rather
Wow.
destroy yourself? Would you rather destroy yourself for a problem that is still going to be there when everything is over? Would you rather destroy what God has placed up place you in this earth and place a purpose in your life for a problem that is still going to be there, because long after you're dead, the problem is still going to be there. The problem that you were facing is still going to be there. And so that's what I understand. The anxiety that academics bring, the anxiety that exams bring. You need to take one step at a time. You can't just jump into the problem and just solve it. You can't just jump in with a solution and solve it. You need to understand what you have that you can use to solve the problem. You need to understand many of us are on different parts of the spectrum. Many of us are coming from a place where we have everything we can use to solve the problem. And then there are just boys that have not a lot, not a lot to cope with, not a lot we can use to deal with these pressures and deal with the stress that we are brought onto. But we need to take one step at a time, understanding the importance of one step at a time. Everything ain't going to be solved at the first point. But once you see some particular sense of, okay, you step 1 foot forward, you step back, you step 1 foot forward, you're seeing some progress. And once you see some progress, you're going to want to continue to the end. And many times over, you reach before the end goal, the main objective that your particular mind is set towards, is going to have the biggest problem and biggest hurdle over you. But you've come from so far, you must understand the progress you have made as a person. So right now I'm sitting an exam, but back in 2021, I was sitting another exam. I overcame that exam. So I now understood. I was back then. Look at the many challenges I faced back then, and I'm still here. These challenges are they're still getting bigger. But I still understand the importance of one step forward, the progress I made, the expression, the people around me. And one thing I must say, in developing yourself, in developing a sustainable self, in developing what you want, don't lose out on the people that was around you when you were facing those challenges. Don't push them to the side. Don't push them to the side. One point you're facing a challenge and they were there for you. Understand, it's going to come a point when not all the time those people could be there for you. That doesn't mean you push them aside, right? So one point you're facing is challenges and those people were there for you. Don't be there. Don't push them down when you are going up. If I don't know if you know a singer has named Dante Bowe. He said on one of his interviews, and it really stuck with me, the people that were there for him when he was growing, don't forget those same people. When they are going down and you're going up, don't forget those same people, right? Don't forget the people that was there for you when you were going up. When they were going up and you were at the lowest, now you're going up and they're going down. Don't forget them. Don't forget the experiences and the different knowledges that they give you. And I think that really stuck with me.
I'm learning
That was me.
from you, Joshua. I'm learning that from you too. Yeah, that will stick with me for a very, very long time. Thank you for sharing that with us and keeping that with you for a very long time. It's going to help you as you journey to an adult life. Let's look at things these days. There's this what they call fear of missing out. Talk about social media addictions and how is social media influencing your life, and how are you really coping with the addiction of many youths, especially young boys, to social media?
How I can say it, okay, from a young age, obviously, our parents try to protect us from social media, and social media has been one of the most factoring things, especially for exposure to the world itself at a young age. That didn't mean many times over we didn't try to see it ourselves without our parents knowing. And how I can say I faced it. Obviously, many things I missed out on from a young age, especially because my mother knew it. My mother went through it. obviously she's going to try to protect me from it because she saw it from a different perspective. She didn't see that I need to learn it or I need to adapt it. She saw it, I need to cover you from it. And obviously I missed out on a lot of stuff. That didn't mean I missed out from social media because many
Okay.
times over, my mother would thought I was not on social media, but I'm on social media. And so many times my friend would question me, how you could be on, how you could not be on WhatsApp, but you're on Instagram. And so I didn't have an answer for that because obviously my mother was the particular barrier there and keeping the cover from there. It didn't serve me a lot. I would say it didn't serve me a lot because from a youthful age, I came into contact with a lot of stuff. Obviously, social media is a large platform and a window to reality. That's how I see social media. It's a window to reality. It's the different things, the things you step outside there to see is the same thing you're going to see on social media. And sometimes social media disguises itself from you to really understand that you need to go out there first and experience it before seeing on social media. So
Wow.
how you can understand the importance of missing out. You ain't missing out, bro. You ain't missing out unless you try. Now, you want to go to a party, but your parents tell you no. There must be a reasoning. Understand the importance of having communication. Understanding why. Why I cannot go. Why? What is the reason I am missing out? There has to be a reason you are missing out to a particular thing. There is a reason that you are not allowed to drink. There's a reason you're not allowed to smoke. Understand the impact it has upon your life. Are you really ready to commit to it? Are you in the state of mind or state of well-being that you can take care of yourself and stabilize yourself? So
Hmm.
from a young age, you understand, can I manage social media from a young age? Can I, 12 years old, do I understand the different things that are kind of come up to me? I'm scrolling through my phone and I see this particular site. I click on the site and I don't understand what I'm seeing. Am I ready to really stabilize myself to understand what I'm seeing? Now, those different things can have a traumatic effect upon us. What we don't see directly is going to come long down the road. It's going to have a traumatic effect upon us where we experience it and we was exposed to it, but we weren't able to stabilize it. We weren't able to stabilize ourselves. So at a young age, we wanted to go to a party. Why exactly did our parents cover us from going to this particular party? Why our parents tried to protect us from alcohol from a young age? They knew the impact it would have upon us. That didn't mean that obviously down the road, they wouldn't allow us to experience it. But they knew that down the road, you're much older, you're able to stabilize yourself, and then they can sit down with you and have a conversation. We're going to allow you now at 18, at 17, 18, 19, sit down. Joshua, you're getting older, and I know you would want to experience these things. And right at this point, you are a free person to experience it because why? You are an adult at this stage. But we didn't allow you back then because why? We know the negative impact it would bring upon you. We know the importance of those things, and you weren't able to manage it, right? And you would try to hide it from us, right? And so from a young age, I would say my experience, my personal experience with social media, it was a negative one. I was exposed to a lot of stuff. And that's why many times my friends would usually ask, Joshua, how are you on Instagram, but not on WhatsApp? But they never knew that I was actually hiding that from my parents. I was hiding that from my mother. All right, so I was exposed to stuff, and they knew because they themselves were exposed to it, but their parents allowed them, right? So
Okay.
there's a different sense you need to understand. There's a different sense when you're allowed to, and then you're not allowed to. But there's a
Okay.
negative effect that it brings upon you when you try to hide it. You're not allowing people, especially older persons, to help you in understanding it, in helping you to manage it. So obviously those persons that were experiencing it before me and were given the permission to, their parents sat down with them and give them the advice they need and told them, this is the boundary limit. this is what we want. Even though we're allowing you to do this and we're allowing you to do that, then there's a person that parents sat down with them and said, I'm not going to allow you to do this. And then you feel that sense that I'm missing out and I'm seeing my friends doing this and I'm seeing my friends doing that. I want to do it. Now you have to hide. And you grow up with that state of mind where you have to hide everything. You have to hide it from yourself. You're hiding, I would say in a sense, you're doing yourself a disadvantage. You're not
Wow.
expressing yourself. You're isolating yourself, right? Because you're hiding yourself, you're hiding whatever you're doing from your parents, and you're hiding whatever you're doing from yourself in a sense. You're doing yourself a disadvantage. And obviously, as time progresses, you're going to want to keep yourself to this particular lifestyle where you're constantly isolating yourself. And that's how I see the missing out perspective, because up to now, many times over, I would want to go somewhere and I would wonder why, especially my parents or my mother is not letting me go. There has to be a reason. And and I'm older now, I'm able to communicate with her and able to ask her, what is the reasoning you're not allowing me to go? And then
Okay.
she would bring up the different points that I need to know. So yeah, that's basically it. I will understand.
That was revealing, Josh. You touched on a lot of things, and I hope a lot of teenage boys will have the opportunity to watch these particular answers you gave to these questions I asked. It's been something I wanted to know from young boys' perspective, and I want to thank you for really taking time to answer it in depthly. Let me give you this question. It boils down to me reflecting on growing up as a young boy myself. That has to do with self discipline. You know, self discipline is a worthwhile asset, but it's really developed on its own initiative. It must be taught as we grow up, boys struggling with self discipline. Can you share with us how you were taught self discipline and what activity helps you to develop it?
Um, all right, self-discipline. Now, I see self-discipline as you being able to identify a particular problem and discipline yourself towards it, able to control yourself towards it. Now, there's many challenges a man face. A man face challenges especially with himself, face challenges with the world and how he has to see himself in the world. Now, you're not able to discipline yourself if you're not in a challenge. In a sense, I would say how you would overcome a problem if you're not experienced to it, if you're not
Yeah,
able to
yeah,
adapt to it, if you're not able to evolve from it. So we came out of a period of COVID. How we adapt to COVID? How did we evolve from COVID to post COVID? We had to experience it. We saw the fatalities of it. We saw the effects of it. Now we understand
yeah,
the discipline side of it. So
yeah,
what initiatives we took to discipline ourselves from COVID? We started to take the vaccine. We started to wear our mask. We started to carry out particular stuff to protect ourselves from it. So as a man, obviously, there's different challenges that's going to face us. Different challenges, especially with um, the sexual sides of us, the mindset that we want to grow, the academic life we want to carry out, the particular
yeah,
lifestyle we want to carry out, the particular relationships we want to have. Now, if you're not able to control yourself, you are becoming a menace to society. You're not managing yourself, so you're going out there and you're wrecking yourself even more. You're not able to manage yourself properly here before you reach out there. And so you're facing the challenges, and the challenges is beating you and it's beating you. But there's no ground. You're not standing upon something to get you grounded. So as a man, self-discipline is understanding the grounding that you need. The grounding that you need. If you have a father, understand the importance of having a communication with your father. Understanding the communication part of it. Understanding the discipline that is going to come with it, right? How I would see discipline. So I have a little challenge. A challenge, especially, I think I need to prove myself. I think I need to prove myself, especially to society as a man. I think I need to prove myself many times over to tell society I'm a man. Didn't you think you were a man when you came out of your mother? Didn't you think you were a man when God put you here? What are you doing thinking that you need to make yourself a man in society? And so there's where you lose out on your purpose. When you try to make yourself something and not allow yourself to adapt to it, allow yourself to evolve from it. So the particular challenge that I faced in becoming a man. And so I think that I needed, you know, this outward look, this particular look a man carries, this distinct look we saw in TV shows, and we saw in movies, and we see in society, this distinct look
Yeah.
man should have. And we try to
Mhm.
adapt ourselves to it. But we're trying to adapt ourselves to it, but there's no discipline that we're having. We're not having respect for our parents. We're not having respect to ourselves. We're not holding responsible to our particular things we do. There's no discipline in there. If you cannot be held responsible for your actions, if you're not going to take initiative towards fixing whatever you're facing, there's no discipline. So you need to take a step forward in understanding, humbling yourself. I think the main initiative in disciplining yourself is the humbling you need, right? The small thing in humbling yourself. Humbling yourself as a man. Humbling yourself as a man to say, the challenges are going to face me, but I'm going to stand upon it. Whatever face me, I'm going to respect it. Whatever thing I do, I'm going to be held responsible for it. And I think that is the turning point where a man is going to come and say, I am holding myself responsible. I am being respectful. I'm going to be more obedient. And that's the turning point in allowing yourself to have discipline and allowing yourself to have self-discipline. And that's how I see it. That's exactly how I see it. Many times over, the challenges is going to come. But once you're standing upon something, once you understand that you are alone is going to be held accountable for it, there is where the self-discipline is. Because many times over, you may not have the end goal, and you may not have the particular stuff. But once you know you're holding on to something, once you know you're going to be held accountable for it, you're going to continue pushing towards it and have that discipline.
Great there, Joshua. Powerful. I love the way you answer these questions. I mean, thrown to you today. It's like this conversation won't stop, but we are almost rounding up. We have some few questions to go. But tell
Yeah.
me what you did, like the funniest thing you ever done as a young boy.
The funniest thing, there's many funny things
Yeah.
because obviously we're standing from a point where I experienced those stuff and then you look back at it and you laugh. But if you're
Yeah.
still living in it, there will not be reason to laugh. And so many times over, I would say I was a very mischievous person. And many times over, my mother faced many challenges with me, especially when it comes to um,
Get it out. Let's have
um,
it. Yeah.
I used to duck class. I'm not glad that it's back in my life. I used to duck class. I used to duck class and go to my friend's house. And I look back then and I was like, wow, I used to do those stuff. Now I wouldn't advise somebody to duck class and goes to their friend's house. But I did it. It was one of the points I like to say the weirdest things you can do in understanding, okay, there's risk factors to these things that you're doing, and what you're
Yeah.
doing is risky. But if you don't experience it and come out of it, there isn't going to be a laughter towards it. So
Yeah.
the many things that I did as a youth, many things I did as a young adult, where I thought I was on top of the world and I thought that everything that I'm doing it according to me. The weirdest things that I did, I ducked class and I gave a lot of trouble and I didn't want to eat my lunch and I would throw away my lunch. My hard working mother's money I'm throwing away. However, yeah, it's funny now, but back then it wasn't. However, I came through the process of understanding. it wasn't right, right? Even though it might be the funniest things I did, where um I would when my the funniest things too came out of the scolding. My mother would want to scold me, and you would swear I was running a marathon. I want this lady scolding me, right? So as a young man, you're growing up in a single parent family, you're growing up in the Caribbean, and your mother wants to scold you. You would swear I was running a marathon when my mother was doing. You would swear my mother wanted to kill me. But it's funny back now because obviously I grew out of it. It's no longer there. My mother is gonna
Yeah,
allow me now to adapt to the
yeah,
particular life. My
yeah,
mother is gonna run me down now to school me. But back then it was funny because it was who I was, right? And I think as a young man growing up and becoming an adult man, you need to understand what you did as a boy, you can't do as a man, right? And if
oh,
that's what you're having, that mindset, what you want to carry out that same boy mentality, you want to carry out that same childish mentality, then you're not maturing into a man, right? You're not allowing yourself to say, I did those stuff back then. There's this particular quote, but I cannot remember. Um, what you did as a child, you can't do as a man. So now it's funny because the weirdest stuff that I did came out of the wrongfulness I did, right? But I would say it's the
yeah,
funniest things I did because why? I have moved myself from that place where it was a risk. Now it's a learning point. It became a learning factor for me. And as I said earlier, those are the same stuff that you need to progress from a boy to a man.
yeah. You're right, Josh. Thank you so much. You're very right saying that. What worries you most about growing up?
What worries me most?
Yeah,
Knowing where many times over, I would usually say I worry, especially when it comes to where I would be. I don't allow myself to say I'm going to work towards it. Many times those worldly ways get into the way and say we're going to worry about where I want to be and who I'm going to be and what I can do, you know? And so many times I worry if I'm doing all of this, if it's going to be the end goal that I achieve. So that's what I worry about. I worry many times over in the next 5 years, would I be in medical school? In the next 10 years, would I be a doctor? I worry about this particular thing rather than worrying if I will have eternal salvation, eternal life, when those are the most important stuff. Because I would hope you would want me to just say something. Um,
go ahead.
as a Christian, it's important to understand where your soul is going to be, right? Where your soul and where your self is going to be, not where this human flesh is going to be. Because after you die, this is all going to turn into energy for other stuff to live off of. You're going to degrade, and this particular self is going to degrade, right? And all that's going to be left is your soul, right? And so, if you're not looking forward to having a good soul in the next 10 years, you're not looking forward to having a pure soul in the next 10 years, then what are you exactly living for? So, at the same time, even though I would worry about, am I going to become a doctor? Am I going to be able to allow my mother to live a good life for what she has given me? It's overcome with the fact that I'm a Christian. I have to understand in the next 10 years, would I have a good soul? Would I actually be speaking about God? Right? And that's what I worry about. At the same time, you want to worry about when you meet to the end goal and you are die, right? Is God going to turn away from you? Is God going to say, I don't know you? And that is a simple thing that I hold on to say, that's the fear I would say I hold on to much more. When people say, if you don't mind me, what's one fear you have? It's many times over saying, I am fearful that God turns away from me and say that he doesn't know me. So that's what I worry about.
Wow, wow. Thank you, thank you. That's revealing and insightful to get as a response from you. You know, helping boys to learn how to be good losers. Because you talk about failure, would you mind to share with us how you handle failure in life, or how you approach uh, managing failures as you have experienced in your lifetime?
Um, so I would say understanding, it's a cliche, but it's a good cliche. Failures is just another word for a learning to learn, right? If you don't fail, you won't enhance. If you don't fail, you won't evolve. So myself, I would say I came from a point where I failed a lot. Obviously, I said in my youthful age, I didn't take up my education very important as an important part of my life. And so I failed out on that part. However, as I move across it, I understand that it was a part of me and I needed to learn what are the impacts of not having an education. So now having an education, I'm able to stand and speak um, many challenges. Failure doesn't come only in academics. Failure to speak proficiently, failure to advise efficiently, failure to communicate properly. Those are different things and different failures. I would say in my youthful self, I wasn't very much being able to express myself because I didn't know what to say and how to say it. However, you had to go through it to understand it. And however, I might say today, one of the worst subjects, I would say, I don't like English. Oh my God, I do not like English, especially when it comes to writing an essay. It's like a whole thing just set on my brain to just not write it, right? And so that's a failure to me. And so not writing the essay, obviously, I'm reaching out more into my academic life and I have to obviously write much more essays, even though I don't like it.
Yeah.
So it's a failure
Yeah.
to me. However, it's that thing in your brain. You know you can't do it perfectly. It's a particular thing that holds you back in a sense. But what I to myself, many times over, I would say, you know what you need to do? Just start writing. Just start doing it.
Mm.
Just start writing. Just start listening to learn little words, learn new words, enhance your vocabulary. And so if you don't face the challenges and face the failure head on, you would never overcome it, right? Um, Many times over, how, so you would ask, how exactly did I overcome writing essays, even though I don't like it now? I saw the importance of having to overcome it, having an
Okay.
understanding
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
failure is still going to be there. Whatever you face now, the failure and the particular challenges you face now, it doesn't just go away. It gets much worse, right? The failure gets much worse as you go on.
And bigger.
However,
Yeah.
you have that initiative in your brain. You need to face it head on. So that I would say, face the challenge, face the failure. Know that failure is a learning point.
Josh, what's your most challenging experience as a teen boy?
Um, as a
Okay.
teen boy, the most
Yeah.
challenging thing I face is finding my
Yeah.
purpose, finding where I need to be, finding and understanding what I need to be and who I need to be. Many times over, we're not able to find our purpose. And it's still a challenge I say I would face today because sometimes I want to know, is education, is a doctor my real purpose? Is understanding my purpose? For me, my challenge is understanding what my purpose is. Because sometimes I want to know, I can just stop this education thing and I could become a professional musician. And so the purpose change, the challenge change. And so to me, finding my purpose, understanding where I need to be, understanding my respect. Sometimes I lose out on that, and sometimes I have to school my own self to understand, yo, bro, it comes a point when you just need to respect and just share respect. I would say today, I don't care who it is, the importance of sharing respect, right? There's many particular stuff and many particular minorities, and you might think, oh, I don't need to show this person respect. To me, I see the importance and I face the challenges of giving people that are different parts of society the respect. So yeah, that's how I see the challenges I face in understanding my responsibility in respect. Yeah, that's how I can say it.
So how do you explore the issue of purpose, meaning, and values? Because this is what you just talked about. How are you
Yeah.
trying to explore this?
So I'm a musician at heart. I'm a academic at heart. I I want success. Now I'm still young, I would say.
Yeah,
I ain't reached out there yet. I'm still covered by my mother.
yeah.
However, it's the principle, it's the end goal, it's what you want, right? How did many successful people become successful in understanding who they are, in what they need to do for society, in what they need to do for themselves and their family, their community, and obviously their nation? How did they find their purpose? Obviously, they had to find their purpose. And to me, that's one of the challenges, of course. But I'm grounded still, and what I need to understand, and I overcome that particular discovering of purpose, is understanding the principles, understanding my goal, right? Understanding that I have a goal and I want to set it. I ain't going to stop until I set it. But at the same time, don't forget the respect. Don't forget the responsibility. But same time, hold on to the goal, hold on to the purpose until you get there. Because many times over, I can say I watch a lot of movies and a lot of influential movies. I don't know if you ever watched Creed. Creed with Michael B. Jordan. He's a famous actor. But the main story plot was it. He came and he thought his purpose was to be an accountant, right? And he thought his main purpose was to become an accountant. But you wouldn't know your perfect purpose until you get there. So now he thought that obviously I'm going to become an accountant. He became the accountant. But that wasn't his purpose. His purpose was to become a boxer, right? And to influence. So make it a goal, make it a purpose, and just follow through with it until you're outside there and you experience it and you discover yourself.
Wow. I wish I could just take you more on that, but maybe in the second edition of your adventure from boyhood to manhood, we're still going to explore more as you evolve into this great man you want to be. So we've asked you about the challenging experience of being a team boy. What is the best thing about being a team boy today?
It's knowing that I have people to go around and express myself. Being able to, I wouldn't say I don't like the rough nature of it, but I love it. I love having to adapt to stuff. I came to Guyana, and obviously I had my mother back there, back in Trinidad, and I was covered. So the best thing of having a teenage period in my life is the experience I gain, and I'm continually gaining, and continuously gaining, I meant, is the experience that I'm gaining. Because it wasn't until um, my younger self, my older self, I meant, that I pick up musician and I pick up the guitar. And obviously that experience has allowed me to gain a skill. I can play the guitar now. So it's a good part in experiencing stuff. The rough nature of having to adapt to stuff. So that's the part I would say is the best part of my teenage years, is allowing myself to experience certain stuff. I am not old, I ain't young, I'm
I
able to
know,
experience stuff.
I know, I know that. So, what advice do you have for teen boys today?
Teen boys. So I think this is going to be capping point in everything I
Yep.
said
Yeah.
earlier. There's many stuff for teenage boys, and from speaking from my perspective, speaking from my understanding, is having principle, having faith, understanding who you are. There isn't going to be another you, right? There isn't going to be another Jacob. There isn't going to be another Joshua. There isn't going to be another you.
Yeah.
Understand what you are living for. Understanding the objectives, understanding the principles you are living for. So many times over, we want to take in all the advice, right? We want to take in all the advice. And it's a good thing to take advice, but it's a good thing too to manage it, to understand it and compartmentalize it, who you are living for. So many people are going to come and give you advice, but as a young man, as a young adult, as a young boy, as an older boy, man, understand what you are living for. Understanding the importance of having respect. I think many of us, sometimes myself, lose out on the understanding of, as a man, you should be showing the most respect and should be holding on to the most responsibility, especially for boys in a family. I like when my mother praised me, especially for taking up responsibility inside of the home, because I think as a young man, these responsibilities allow ourselves to be shaped. And I think that's the best part of the best advice I can give a boy or a young adult is responsibility, respect, understanding who you are, and at the same time, try to grab onto faith. It's the most powerful thing to grab onto.
Wow. Yes, the audience, Joshua, thank you. We actually come to the end of this conversation. And I want to appreciate all the people that joined us tonight and those who will see or watch this conversation after we upload it in our social media pages. But Josh, while I was growing up many years ago, I did ask myself a question. How do you live? How do I live? It becomes the greatest question I ever asked myself. It took me a lot of time to figure out how to live. And it took me to a lot of research into difference in the word religion. And I came to a conclusion that they all teach us something how to live. That's the essence. Now the questions it come back to all are how do you. So in finding answers to this, I created an acronym for the word live, which is LIVE. And the first letter is L. So I live to love others. Loving others is just like sunshine. It gives everybody that energy. And the sun will not come to the earth or to the plant or to the inhabitants of the universe. That you owe me for the energy I've dispensed to you that help to grow, help to keep life shining on earth. So the first thing that came to my mind, I must be an expression of love for others every day. And that's what I conclude this program with each and every time. The next letter in the word live, is I, isn't it? Yeah. So that I gave it an acronym, inspire others. You see, inspiration inspiration is like when you find yourself in a community or in a place when things are dying and you walk in there, you breathe into a dying and the situation comes alive. So, from the world where the word inspiration comes from is inspire, to bring life back into a dying situation. So when you become an inspiration to your world, when you inspired others, that is what I chose as how to live, to love, to inspire. Then the next letter is V, isn't it? Now, the V there is to value others or create value for humanity or add value to humanity. Now, when we're in search for purpose, the search is to enable us to add value to the human family, our collective existence. The one who becomes a doctor is adding value by saving lives. That's the value you want to add to humanity. And if you don't add value to the collective family, existence of humanity, you have robbed us of your existence. And the last but not the least is E, is to educate others. And that's what this platform is all about. Exploring the adventure for boyhood to men, to become a source of education for young men and men, to be able to educate others in their society. Somebody put it this way, is that if you are planning for a year, you plant a corn. If you are planning for 10 years, you plant a tree. But if you are planning for a lifetime, educate the next generation, educate children. This is how I find answers to how do I live. Friends, audience, Josh, it feels like we should never stop, but we had to go. And with that, I leave the pin on our comment section how you can see the work we do. You can help us share with friends, those who influence you to support our work on the Being a Man initiative project, mentoring boys and empowering generations. You can reach me on www.bemanadvocacy.org. That's when you click on this link, it can take you to our major website pages. You can see us on social media, Beman Advocacy. You can see us on Facebook at Beman Advocacy, on Instagram at Beman Advocacy. And I want to say it's such a wonderful experience having you on this conversation today. Till next week, Josh, do you have a final word for everyone? You have a last word for us?
I think you summed it up well. In leaving a legacy, I would say you're saying you're educating, you're leaving an inspiration to the next generation, of course, to educate them and allow them to have what you experience, to educate them and leave the experience that you had. So I would say, in a sense, you're leaving a legacy. And I think that's what men have to do, is leave a legacy. So yeah, I'm grateful to be on this platform today. And I'm grateful to have the experience to share my side on the perspective of going through boyhood to manhood.
All right. Thank you. From the audience, this is where we draw the curtain for today's conversation. Until next week, Monday, when we have another episode, I remain your regular host, Ola Akinwe, the humanitarian guru, founder, Boys Mentoring Advocacy Network. Bye. See you next week. Bye, Josh.